live on my group. Just checking. Just seeing if we're going to Facebook. Yep, we are. And I'm probably going to have to shut that down because otherwise I'll be hearing my voice. That won't work. Yes. Okay. Here we are. So I'm just going to put this up just in case anyone does come in with any questions. I'll just put my phone on. Take a deep breath in, be in the moment of now, because I need to remind myself every time I do that. And then we can get started. It is Tuesday, the 25th, and I've just come out of a workshop talking about doing inner work. And this is something I really wanted to talk about today. And it's just going to be like a little mini lesson. And I'm going to use this opportunity to demonstrate. I'll be running a 5-day workshop in the next couple of weeks once I get all my technical stuff sorted. Just an introduction to the question around what does it mean to awaken? I use this terminology in a lot of my writings, in a lot of my in the group as well, and just assuming, which, as we know, one of the 4 agreements is to never assume, that we all have an understanding of what it means to awaken. Oh yes, we can assume it means to wake up, but awaken to what? Now, I often use awakening beyond your body. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about what that means and break the 4 parts, awakening beyond your body. In a sense, what it means for me with my story, the weight loss story, was knowing myself, who I was beyond my physical body. And I want to talk a little bit about the 4 parts of that body that we are, and how ultimately our goal is, when we do the inner work, when we awaken to a deeper truth or a deeper knowing or a deeper understanding about who we are beyond our physical body, we look at those 4 parts as physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I, coming from a background 25 years in personal training, worked with the physical body. And when I had that awakening to that deeper truth of we're so much more than our physical body, that is when I wanted to tune in and work with the other parts. I then went on a journey to into the mental and emotional, and did the parts of the subconscious. We did the subconscious programming, met fears, changed beliefs, limiting beliefs, and started to see the world from a completely different perspective from doing the inner work. There was, however, one component missing, and that is what I talk about being that missing link, was that 4th part of the body, which was that spiritual part. And this is where has brought me to where I am today, because it wasn't until I was able to work with that or have awareness to that 4th part, that missing link. I call it the missing link. And that becomes, and I have an understanding of why it was such a difficult space for me to delve into, was because of with the conflict that I had between what spirituality was and what religion was. And for those who have been brought up in a religious, upbringing, whatever religion that may be, I just wanted to reiterate to you that the difference between spirituality and religion. And I love this conversation and I love this question. And it often brings up lots of things around a table. What is the difference between spirituality and religion? And some people will say, I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious, and vice versa. I am religious, can be very religious, but not be spiritual. So I just wanted to give you my view on that. And I got this difference when I listened to one of Deepak Chopra's podcasts. He speaks about he wrote the book, The 7 Spiritual Laws, I think it's called. And he speaks about spirituality being consciousness and religion being beliefs. And once you are able to just get clear about that, that religion is beliefs, that we believe in something. We have values, we have beliefs, and we grow up with those. So whether it's Orthodox, Catholic, Hindu, Buddhism, whatever it is, they have their own set of beliefs. And then we get to a stage of our lives where we wake up, or something doesn't fit, or something doesn't feel right, and we say, I'm not sure whether I believe in that anymore. A little bit, I think I've used this example before, a little bit like Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. You know, you wake up, I don't think they're really real. Sort of a bit like that. Love using that example because everyone can relate to that. So how did you know that Santa wasn't real? How did you know that the Tooth Fairy wasn't real? And what made you think or believe that maybe it wasn't real? Yeah, because you really do we even have a chimney? So these are the things that you start to question. So when we talk about spirituality, we talk about I'm spiritual, we talk about consciousness. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is to be conscious, to be fully aware, to be to take off or put on glasses, as I'd say, or get a bigger, better prescription. When you wake up and you see the world and go, what? Who? I don't believe that anymore. How did that happen? So we start to wake up and have higher levels of consciousness. So as opposed to being unconscious, where we know what that word means as far as, you know, if you get a head injury, we're knocked out unconscious. So people that are unconscious of their feelings, unconscious of their behaviors, unconscious of their choices, because they're subconscious. They're coming from their place of 95% in their subconscious, where they're making decisions they are unaware of, unconscious of. And then at some point one day, they just wake up, and we just wake up and go, oh, I'm going to question that. Why do I do what I do? Just being curious, just having awareness around why is it that I do what I do. So that brings me to awakening beyond your body. So what made me awaken beyond my body, or what happened in that situation? So I awakened to a deeper truth about who I was. And when I awakened to this truth, I was at a physical state. So if we look at those 4 parts of the bodies, where I was completely depleted, where to the point where I literally had no iron in my body. Now, if you look at what iron does, iron basically carries oxygen through your body. So at that point, when I went and had a blood test, I literally had no iron. It would probably be like how am I even breathing? And then from that, you know, that was the fatigue. From that, obviously with that low level of iron, my whole mineral and vitamin, my physical body was completely out of alignment, completely out of balance. And it wasn't until that I looked at all those physical aspects that I was able to then balance the emotional, mental, and spiritual. And that pretty much brings what we aim for, again, to get those 4 parts of our body into balance. So when I was at that state with pretty much no iron and a lot of other minerals, I didn't have any zinc, I didn't have any magnesium, I was just completely depleted. I had been running out of a fight, flight, or fight. And we know that to be we're primed for fear. So again, I use the running from the bear situation, where we've inherited this part of our brain that we are primed to. When we see a bear, we run. If we see, you know, if there's a dog there that's not on a leash, we know, oh, danger. You know, our body responds. How it responds, our brain, there's a part of our brain attached to our nervous system. It then goes, the bells ring, we run, and then on our kidneys, we have these little walnuts, which are adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands pump out the cortisol. Psh, psh, is what I like doing that. Psh, psh, show them. So as we're running from the bear, the cortisol level is pumping out of the little adrenals on our kidneys. And that cortisol is our stress hormone. And we are in fight, flight, fighting, flying from the bear. Then when we get to safety, our then cortisol levels reduce. We then we breathe, and as that breath takes us back down into, and we feel safe again. And because we are in this fight or flight, we now have taken fear to new heights, is what I often say, that, and we are living in these times right now. And literally I've just looked at my phone, and I believe we're going into another, what do you call it? Lockdown or restrictions. And you straight away feel, you kind of go straight to your breath and you go, we're going into lockdown. And I can feel that collective energy just, and then all of a sudden your cortisol levels will heighten in that moment, because we're in that fight or flight. The fear of being locked down, the fear of going to schools closing, the fear of business, the fear of what I'll lose, the fear of, the virus. And there's a whole lot of aspects that will come with that fear. But as my teacher has constantly says, that every single thing that's happening for you, not to you, is to serve your awakening. And although when you first hear that, it's not what you want to hear, because really you want to be able to control this situation. You want to be able to have this situation end. And when you are awakened and you tune into this inner work, you become aware of, what can I do about this situation right now? How much control do I have at this situation? Do I have a choice in this situation? This is awareness. This is you now becoming aware and awakened to a deeper truth, a deeper understanding. You're starting to be curious. You're starting to ask questions. For example, we can't have five people in the house, but we can still go to a nightclub. Now, at some point, some people will just accept that. They won't question it. And now I notice some people will say, that doesn't make sense. We can't have people in the house, but we can go to a nightclub with 1,000 strangers. We can't have 5 people in the house, more than 5 people, but we can still go to the football. We can still sit in the classroom. So these aren't things that I bring up to cause an argument. These aren't questions that bring up conspiracy theories. It's got nothing to do with that. This is looking at what is happening right in front of me and observing it and saying, what is here is serving my awakening. I'm feeling something here. What am I being shown? This is what we call having awakening to this deeper understanding. I need to make sense of this, as opposed to, I am angry because I need to control this situation that I have no control over. So I just now want to go into how the physical body, which we know 4 parts, I just want to quickly go through the 4 parts of the body and how they all serve in the awakening to that deeper truth and doing that inner work. It's not until you have awareness around what you are feeling, how you are responding, that you are able to at least know what you're working with. And if you're in that state of fear, in that state of fight or flight, you're not breathing, your nervous system will be responding, and you won't be able to get to that calm state or connected to yourself to actually get guided by your own intuition. Oh, that rain's making me feel cold. Into your intuition or to your soul, into your wisdom, if we're in that state of fight or flight. So I just want to talk about those 4 parts of the body and how that, how I was able to balance that state and how I was able to get back to that balance. So as we know, the physical body is everything that we're made up of. It's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves in the world. Our color of our skin, our bones, our hair, who we are, who we're, physical matter, anything to do with matter. We have physically here, we can feel, and we have our senses. And then there's we feel tightness in our body. How does it represent to us if you're unbalanced in your physical body? Well, you'll feel it in your body. You'll have aches, pains, or you may have a disease. Your body becomes diseased by your emotional state. So then we look at the emotional side. We look at, And emotion, emotion, I often teach this as a energy in motion. We are made up of, everything is energy, vibration. Emotions are how we respond to our physical world, how we see the world, so how we feel into it. So emotions, anything to do with anxiety or stress responses, or trauma, or anything that we physically feel, physiologically feel in our cells, in our heart beats faster. We're having an emotional energy in motion reaction or response to a situation. So, and again, that affects our fight or flight. That's when we're having an emotional response. So I was basically living in this fight or flight for such a long time that it then became its physical equivalent, which is I often talk about, until I heal that part of that self. The mental side of the body is we look at our thoughts and beliefs, which I could go on for days and days about this. So I'm just going to cross over and share my screen. And I just want to use this visual because I find it very useful. Now, one of my favorite quotes that I use is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So when I say this over and over again, I want to just explain briefly in this mental balancing out that part of our body. This is just having an awareness and awakening to the parts of our brains that we do have a conscious part and a subconscious part. And unless we make that unconscious, which is the things that we don't know, they're deep embedded, they're programs, they're beliefs, they're things that we have learnt all through all of our experience in our life that we've now made to be true. So this unconscious part is where we find our emotional responses, which our thoughts cause our emotional responses. So if we don't have awareness around what's in our subconscious, we can't actually change it. Oh, just want to go to the next one. So that's just a reminder about what the definition of consciousness is. So to be aware of our internals and how our internals affect our externals. So our external world, just having a knowing that your external world creates your internal world. So whatever we want more on the outside, it's the inner work that we need to do. So starting from the inside out. This is the diagram that I just want to hold up because I just want you to anchor into this visual. I use this a lot for teachings because this is often being used for, that success. You might have seen it, that success. People see this as success, but they don't see what has happened for people to become successful, for whatever definition you have for successful, by the way, just using that as an example. So when we talk about the conscious mind, we talk about what are you aware of? 5 to 10% you are only aware. And then all of it is underneath here, under the deep ocean. This is when we do the inner work. These are the things that we cannot get access to unless we are in a relaxed state. If you're in fight or flight and you can't get your breath and your cortisol levels are just at their peak and you are unable to get into this relaxed state, where we are able to access beliefs, values, emotions, your habits, intuition. And that's living an intuitive life. That's what I teach. It's all about your intuitive intelligence and how to actually access it. But prior to being able to access it, it's just having awareness and awakening to how your brain, your mind actually works and where all these beliefs and values have come from. And if they no longer serve you, how do we actually change them? So I'm just going to keep that up for a little bit because I really want you to have that vision, how I keep referring back to it. So with our mental, all our thoughts, so if it's unbalanced, if you're feeling unbalanced in your mental state, it's probably because we have, you may have low self-esteem, you may have low self-worth, you may not feel that you're good enough, you may have thoughts about, limiting beliefs that you are now starting to become aware of, but you have no idea where they have come from because they're in the deep blue sea. They are literally so far deep under that we cannot access them. They are also responsible for our habits and some addictions. So we get addicted to certain behaviors, to certain foods, to substances, and we know why we are going to the substance we know that we joke and say, oh, I'm addicted to coffee, I'm addicted to sugar. We actually are consciously aware of that we are addicted to it, but we actually don't know why. And so when we go in to do the inner work, the deep work, underneath the deep blue sea, we then are able to find out, is that where it came from? And in that state, we are able to change it, rewrite it, reclaim that emotional authority that we may have given away from that event, if that makes sense. And the other two parts are the spiritual and, or did I say the three? Oh, no, I can't even remember. Physical, emotional, mental, and number 4, spiritual. And that it was what I refer to as the missing link. So the spiritual part of the body, which we often become afraid of because we are in this paradox with our religious beliefs and what we consider to be spiritual or religion. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just you awakening to that deeper understanding or deeper truth where you get to say, actually, I don't believe in that, but I do understand, or I believe in this now, because you have free will, you have choice, you are here, you are, you're sovereign. And that's what we're here to do, is to just awaken to that deeper truth. And everything that's happening in front of us is to help us get there. So with the spiritual aspect and the missing link was learning and understanding that connection, that we are connected to all, we're connected to one universe. And whether we call it, whether you feel comfortable to call it God as one creator, source, universe, higher self, whatever that word that you refer to as being is the one aspect, that is that missing link between that being, knowing and understanding that we are all connected, we are all part of one. And this represents when we become, I call, disoriented, dislocated, or disconnected. They are the words that first may come up when you start to feel lost in the world. We often will use the words, I don't feel I belong anymore. I don't feel that that's for me anymore. I feel separated. I feel left out. That is a very subtle awakening in your heart space, at your soul level. You feel it in your body, you feel it in your physiology, you feel it in your the cells. When you go, there's something that doesn't feel quite right. That is the beginning of, it can be for some people, when you start to be curious about that feeling, is when you can start to have that awakening. And how does it appear unbalanced? When your spiritual part of your body is unbalanced is when you just feel that kind of lost. So when we awaken to higher levels of consciousness, higher levels of knowing, higher levels of deeper truth, we become more open to explore those 4 parts of our bodies. And we are able to look at where they're imbalanced or where they are balanced, where you need to work on, where you need to work with. Is it my physical body? And I'm just going to use an example. So there are a lot of books. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. There is this book which I recently bought, which was what your body's telling you, the metaphysical causes of illnesses and disease. And there is also one called The Secret Body, let me get this right, The Secret Language of Your Body. And I love this one because I'm just going to stop sharing that screen. I think now you've got a real visual of that iceberg, because I'm often going to refer back to that iceberg when I'm talking about subconscious and unconscious layers. And with these books, how they help is sometimes when the secret language of your body, our physical bodies will always show us our something about us being like the barometer. So it'll indicate, from either a broken bone to a disease or inflammation or a headache to a cut, even just to a cut toe. And I love to get my book out and just get my metaphysical to see if I can actually match up with anything. I just happened to open up the page randomly just before I got onto this call, and it's actually taken me to the flu. So I thought, all right, well, then I'll read the flu. Quite appropriate. And it talks about the physical block, the emotional block, and the spiritual block. So, and the mental block. So this talks about the 4 parts of the body and whereabouts metaphysically, holistically, energetically, however, what word you want to use, does it play out in my life right now? And I'll just read you just a couple of things just to give you a bit of an idea. So if I look up flu, the physical block of the flu is symptoms, common cold. We talk about what the physical symptoms are. Usually more develops quickly, more in the body, respiratory inflammation, headache, coughing, moderate in high fever, aching muscles, and acute fatigue. They are the physical symptoms of a flu. Then we look at the emotional symptoms, metaphysical symptoms of a flu. The flu is the result of critical mass, emotional, and physical. It will manifest frequently if it is difficult for you to express your desires or to do what it takes to realize them. You feel easily smothered and overwhelmed. The body is saying, I've had it. I like that one. The flu provides an obvious reason to get away from a situation. That's the emotional block of a flu. Now, when you're reading it, it may resonate, it may not. That will depend on how open you are and how it resonates with you in your energetical body. The mental block is the severity of your flu. I really should have put my glasses on for this. Actually, I might just do that. Yes, I'll put on my pink glasses to match my pink top. The severity of your flu is determined by the strength of your beliefs that preventing you from fulfilling who you are and what you need to do. So rather than believing the flu is the only ticket out of an uncomfortable situation, examine your mindset and change it. Oh, I love that. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, just examine it and change it. Often it's your own perspective, not the attitude of others, that is the problem. Are you overly dramatic? Oh, I like that. Right. That's just an example. And then we go into the spiritual block, and there will be some spiritual questions about where you potentially could be blocked in that part of your body. Again, the ultimate goal is to have 4 parts of our body balanced. But unless we have awareness about where they are imbalanced, we can't get them balanced. So that is my little class today about what does it mean to awaken. And I suppose the next question is, what do you do when you start to have this feeling of an awakening? Because it can feel really scary at the start. And where do I go and what do I read? I always recommend, if you're starting to feel that you're starting to question things, my first book was Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And I loved it because she just represented, she had better not quote it. I think it was she developed a tumor or some disease in her body. And she talks about her journey of how through the power of her mind and through the emotional, how her emotional manifestation became her physical equivalent in disease. And it's all about self-empowerment. It's all about metaphysical, holistic approach. And it's just a really good entry book to understand, is this what I'm questioning? Is this what I'm here to do? And I mean, I have over 300 books that in my library that I could recommend, but I often say, Louise, that one there is just a great start because it just gives you the fundamentals of to understand yourself deeper, to understand who you are beyond your physical body, that you are a part of something bigger than just this one part of the mind, which I will do another lesson on that, the ego mind. And we only identify with our ego mind. And Deepak, I love Deepak's definition of the ego mind. He says it's edging God out. And so, just based on my description of that soul connection through our higher self, God, universe, source, whatever you feel comfortable. So, ego is edging God out. And he explains that to be edging God out, as in you're edging out the universe. You're listening to the ego mind, which that's just a part of our mind that was designed to, it's our analytical mind, our, that's the intellectual side of our brains that keep us safe, that keep us, they're there to, as our form, our identity in this earth life experience, because we are an earth school, and we need that physical part and that ego mind for this earth school. However, awakening to beyond your physical body is just having the understanding of, I am more than that. I am multidimensional. There is aspects of myself that I would like to meet other than just this physical body. So thank you for being here. And this is a little bit of an introduction to what I will be teaching in a couple of weeks with my 5-day free workshop. If you want to join in, it is just to have a deeper understanding how that subconscious works, how the 4 parts, how we line them all up, and how we become just deeper connected to ourselves, knowing who we are, so you can just get into life and, live with and just feel good, basically. So that's the message at the end of the day. Feel bloody awesome, feel good, and know that life's always going to dish out stuff. And one of my other favorite sayings, which I always used to use when I was personally training, and I still do, because I still personally train when I've got my clients deadlifting 40, 50, 60, 80, 90 kilos. And every time they lift up that weight, I say, doesn't get easier, you get better. So I love using that, as well as doing the inner work, that life doesn't get better, it gets easier. I got that all mixed up. Now I've forgotten it. Life, you get better at life, basically. Life doesn't get easier, you get better at it. Yes, I got it. You get better, and you get so better because you've got so many tools in your backpack that you just go, I've got this sorted. We're going to go through pain and grief, or, suffering and fear. But when you've got your backpack full of all the tools, you know what tool to bring out to get you through that. You get better at it every time. And my message is to provide that, to provide hope, to provide another way of being, to teach another way of being, to understand who you are and how to reconnect with who you are, so that you can navigate through your emotions to be as vital and the best version of yourself. So thank you for being here. Have a great Tuesday, and see you next time.